Welcome back, guys, to the WordPress 101 and customization guide. In this course, I'm going to teach you all the ins and outs of how to customize your WordPress site. So this is video 6 in the series, and in this video we're going to discuss plugins. Plugins are key functionality for any WordPress site because they add functionality to your website. We're also going to talk about the differences between plugins and themes. We're also going to talk about how you can find the correct plugin. Then we're going to talk about how you actually install a plugin. And then we're going to go through a list of my own recommended plugins to get you started. After that, we're going to talk about best practice and maintenance of your plugins. And last but not least, we're going to teach you how to troubleshoot your plugins just in case they have bugs. Let's get into it. Okay, so what are plugins? So a plugin, simply put, is something that extends or adds functionality to your WordPress site. Once you're logged into the CMS, you can go over here to the left-hand menu and click on Installed Plugins, or you can actually add a new plugin here. But just to give you a couple of ideas about what plugins can do more specifically, let's just have a look at some of the ones that I've got on my website, Better Developer Docs. So this one is to do with helping page speed, to get a faster page speed on mobile and desktop. This one allows us to create a backup of the website just in case we were ever hacked or needed to somehow go back to a previous version. This one again is related to site speed. It's a CDN. Child theme configurator, that's like a very useful plugin if you are editing themes, which we're going to get to in a later video. What else have we got here? We've got like an SEO plugin to help us add various meta data so that search engines are able to better display our website and search results, that kind of thing. Some other popular examples of plugins would be e-commerce. So we could search here for the very popular WooCommerce plugin, and we could install that, and that would add e-commerce like functionality to our sort of base stock WordPress site. So for example, that would allow us to create products and also different kinds of products. It would allow us to take payments, that kind of thing. So plugins in general extend the functionality of your website. There are tons and tons and tons of plugins. So basically whatever you need to do on your website, you can usually find a plugin that can help you to do that. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is I just want to briefly touch on the difference between a plugin and a theme. A plugin adds functionality and a theme adds an aesthetic to the website. And there is a little bit of crossover in those. Sometimes you get, for example, page builder plugins, which help with the aesthetic, but most of the time that's an accurate sort of differentiation. So for example, on my website, Better Developer Docs, there is, this is the aesthetic of it. So lots of white space, sort of a light sort of purple color for links and menus. This specific font comes from the theme, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so now I want to talk about what is the best way to go about actually finding the plugin that you need. There's really two main ways to do this. The first is to go to the Add New submenu item of plugins in the CMS and just start searching for whatever plugin you want. For example, if you want a menu plugin to help you with menus, you could just search the word menu, and then you could investigate these from there. You'll see that there's a load of them. And this brings me to my next point, which is that because there's so many plugins with WordPress, often it's really good just to Google like best whatever functionality you need plugin. So for example, best menu plugins for WordPress. This will often just give you, these are page results, but this will often give you, for example, Hostinger has 8 best WordPress menu plugins. And so This will help you cut down a little bit on the decision making that you have to have, because um, they're going to vet this huge list down to 8. So you can kind of just go from there. And yeah, I find that a really useful way to quickly differentiate what are the good plugins for a particular functionality and what are the bad plugins. The other thing to try and understand is the quality of a plugin. So there are a few different ways that you can try and assess whether or not the plugin that you're going to install potentially is a good quality plugin. So one way is that you can just look at the active installations. So this one has 400,000 or greater than 400,000 active installations. So that's a lot of users. So, sometimes the majority is correct. They also have a good amount of reviews at 519, and they're in, let's say the 4.5 or 4 sort of range out of 5 for the reviews. So that's good. The other thing you can do is, before you install, just go to more details. And then they will usually have a website where you can go and investigate a little bit more, or you can just read this summary here. So, they've got a description there of what it does. So have a read of that. Again, they've got the reviews. They've got the poor reviews that you could go and read if you wanted, just by clicking on the 1-star reviews. And so you could go ahead and start reading all the reviews just to see if there's anything particular that jumps out at you that may be a problem for you. And then, go back to the list here, and you can read about the features that it has, the different pro features. Often plugins will have like a free version and a paid version. So it's useful just to have an understanding of if you need to pay for this plugin or not to get the kind of functionality that you need. Oftentimes there's a free plugin which does exactly what you want. So yeah, have a look at that. Then there's also further instructions there in terms of vetting, or further information there that you can have a look at. In terms of vetting the plugin, have a little look at the FAQ. So for example, is this menu plugin compatible with the very popular Elementor page builder plugin? So it's saying yes, and that there's a whole documentation on that. So, that's a really good sign if they've got documentation to help you to understand how to use their plugin. So yeah, just make sure that you're downloading plugins that are highly recommended, have a lot of reviews, have documentation, that kind of thing. Another useful thing to look at is when it was last updated. If you see that this was 4 years ago, then chances are that it's not being maintained anymore, and you probably don't want to use it. Search for another one. So next we're going to look at how we actually install a plugin, and there's actually 2 ways to do this. So once you have searched for a plugin, so maybe maybe you found a menu plugin from this list. Let's try another one, responsive menu. So maybe you went to the plugin area and you typed in responsive menu, and you searched for the particular plugin, and let's just say that this is it. You can then just click the Install Now button, which will install the plugin. And if you give that a second, it will then ask you to activate it. So just because you've installed a plugin doesn't mean that it's active yet, and active means that you're actually able to utilize its functionality. So assuming that you're going to use it, which you probably are, just go ahead and click activate, and away you go. It will then tell you that the plugin has been activated, and it will show up in your list of all of your plugins. So you can see here that there's WP responsive menu, and you can then go and check out its settings in order to set up the plugin, or you can deactivate it if in the future you decide that you don't actually want to use this plugin. Often it's very common to sort of play around with a few different plugins before you sort of settle on one that does exactly what you want. And the other way to add a plugin is to go to add new, and you can actually add the source file. So if you go up to upload plugin, you can then choose the source file, and this will be in a .zip format. And most of the time you don't install plugins like this. However, if you have been given a .zip file for the plugin from the plugin developer, you can install it this way as well. You simply choose the .zip file, click install, and then it will install and activate at the same time. And then you can go back to your installed plugins list, find it in the list, click settings, and set it up from there. So the next thing I want to talk about is a list of recommended plugins. WordPress out of the box doesn't do every single thing that you want it to do. You have to add plugins to it in order for it to do what you want. And in the very early stages, it's a wise idea to just get some essential plugins that are on this list. So this is a blog post that's on the website, betterdeveloperdocs.com. I will leave a link below in the description so you can access it, and I'll update this from from time to time. And I've just gone through and made like a list of different essential and useful plugins. And the main concern straight away for your WordPress site is that you have a backup of your site. So get a plugin that does backups. And then you also want a plugin which does security. So on my list here, I've got a link to WordFence plugin, which basically will stop a lot of nefarious bots from accessing your site and will keep your site more safe from potential threats. There are also some other useful security plugins here. For example, hide login. This actually allows you to change the login URL that we discussed earlier to a custom URL, and this will hide the default login page from nefarious users. It's not going to stop all users, but in combination with all nefarious users, but in combination with WordFence, you should be able to cut down on most of these. There's other ones as well, like Google Recapture, which will stop bots from, adding comments and potentially hacking your site that way. And then if you want to take this further, you can actually go and check out Asset Cleanup, Yoast, TinyPNG, Child Theme Configurator, which we're going to cover in detail in a further video, redirection plugins, WP rollback, all this kind of stuff. I'm describing here why these plugins are useful. But yeah, initially, just go and get some basic security plugins, and that should get you through the initial sort of weeks and months of your site, keep you safe and safe into the future. And then you can come back to this list and check out more. I also recommend that you go and have a look at this page on the site called Make WordPress Faster. And you are gonna, at some point, your site is gonna not be fast enough, and you're going to want to increase it so that your users have a better experience. And also Google and other search engines appreciate a fast site for their algorithm, so they're more likely to show it. So I'll leave this link down here as well, but basically this will take you through a process, including specific plugins, to speed up your website. So we'll use CDNs, we'll use Asset Cleanup, we'll use a bunch of different ones. So check that out as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is updating your plugins. Now, in WordPress, the plugins that you're installing, you generally speaking aren't writing and building the code within those plugins. They're built by other developers and companies, and what they will do every now and then is that they will update their code for their plugin, and then you will need to go and update to their latest version. So I recommend that you do this approximately every month. You just go to the dashboard and then updates, and then you'll be able to scroll through a list of plugins which you can update. And it's useful to update them because often the updates will actually include security patches to keep you a little bit more safe, and also new functionality. And we're going to come back to updating your themes, because that's something you should also be doing as well, but we're going to cover that in a later video. In addition to this updates page, you can also go to the installed plugins page, and if there is an update available, it will actually tell you here, and you can just click the update button directly from this page in order to update your plugins. So in WordPress, when you're updating your plugins, you need to understand that updating your plugins can actually, in some cases, not usually, but in some cases, it can actually break your website. So when I say break, I mean sometimes your page won't actually show. For example, maybe it will, instead of presenting the page like this, it might just be a white blank screen, which is obviously a broken website. And so you need to understand how that this is possible, and two, how to go about fixing this in if indeed you actually come across this. So I will include a link down below to another blog post which covers this if you're in dire need of that information now. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you've got a better understanding of plugins. In the next video, I'm going to do a deeper dive on themes. So check out the card in the top corner for that video. See you next time.